and welcome back to the Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. I am excited. All these years later, we are finally returning to Dracula. This time, Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
I mean, there was a bit of a gap for us, and there was a 7-year gap for the movie. So,
yeah, do you know? I almost wondered, like when I started, going back through this movie, and it comes up with the They talk about how it was 10 years previous, and I was like, oh, I wonder if it was actually 10 years in real life, but it wasn't. It was almost 10 years though.
Yeah. They did have the Brides of Dracula in between, which originally was going to be another Dracula movie, but
yes,
got a bit changed around. So
I like Brides of Dracula.
I do, mainly because of Christopher Lee.
Yes,
and I do love what's her name, Martita. She plays the Countess.
Mm-hmm.
She's wonderful. Her sort of end is so sad because like she's done her best to keep her awful son locked up.
Yeah,
and because he's so charming, he gets freed. And yeah, I mean, I think Lee was supposed to appear in it at the end and sort of admonish the young vampire sort of thing, even though the guy was 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a sort of weird one that it's like kind of jammed in, but not quite.
Yeah, it kind of works and kind of doesn't. Like, it's a bit of a weird continuity, Brides.
Yeah.
You could say it just happens in between, but it does feel a bit awkward.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at it as a Van Helsing movie and not a Dracula movie.
Yes, totally. This one is a much better, works much better as a sequel.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot I love about this movie. There's a couple of things like I always felt like it's too short. Is my biggest complaint with this movie. Like, I think it does an amazing job of building up, and then when Dracula gets there, it kind of feels a bit rushed.
There's a thing about quite a few Hammer movies is that they build up, and then the end always seems a little rushed.
Yeah.
It's always we've got like 10 minutes to kill the Count.
Yeah.
It's like, quick, let's do him in. It's like, no, let it breathe a little bit more first, please.
Oh, totally. Because the beginning of this movie breathes lovely. It's like got some nice space. It's got some nice time. It's eerie. Yeah. It's creepy. There's this big build up to seeing the Count. He's not like immediately in the movie. I love all of that, but it does feel like once he's there, we needed another half hour, I think.
Yeah, you even get the false sort of entrance when you get
love that
Clove coming in, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, let's just get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
So we open as I feel like all good, continuations of a story should. We open with a first a shot of the castle and the Hammer Productions, but then we get a full recap of what happened at the end of Dracula or Horror of Dracula. Yes. And of course we see Sir not appearing in this film defeat Dracula.
Yeah.
And
I do think doesn't the voiceover coming at a really odd moment?
It does, yes.
It comes in just as the Count is about to bite Van Helsing, and then it's like, oh, that was weird. What?
It's like, quick, rush to say everything now.
Yeah, like, what a weird moment to pick to bring it in.
It is strange. And I also find it strange because obviously Christopher Lee does not speak as Dracula in this film or many other films. But I do find it weird that he seemingly voiced the trailer, which I found today, and I was like, oh, I think Christopher Lee's actually voicing this trailer, or someone that sounds a lot like Christopher Lee.
Sounding like Christopher Lee, yeah.
Someone who did a good job of.
Well, I mean, Lee famously said, "I wasn't going to say the words because they were bloody awful."
Well, he said they weren't Bram Stoker.
Yeah,
and they were awful. It was like two things on his part. He was like, well, it's not actually Bram Stoker's words, and there's a lot of, you could have used some lines at least, and also it's terrible.
Throughout all of the other movies that he was in as Dracula, he peppered in quotes from Dracula. He made sure he changed. Like there's one of the speeches that he's given. I can't remember which one it is. It's not Scars, or it might be Scars. He was given something about him being the apocalypse and all this sort of stuff. He was like, nope, not saying that. And instead he just picked a a line about I think it was the thing about his revenge will take centuries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The line from Dracula.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was. Apparently he carried a copy of Dracula with him, or while he moved around. So he had a genuine love for the character, and I think that's one of the reasons why he kept coming back as well.
Yeah.
Because some people say that even though he didn't really want to do it, he kind of did because he didn't really want anybody else to do it. Certainly not for Hammer anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
and the other thing about the lines is whether you believe Lee or whether you believe Jimmy Sangster, who says he never wrote lines for Dracula.
Well, I was going to say, on the point of no lines, I like it in this film.
It works.
It works really well in this film because I always felt like he's just come back to life and he's a bit savage and he's a bit kind of, feral. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's not quite himself yet.
Yeah, he hasn't worked it up properly.
Yeah, and I kind of always thought that worked quite well in this film. It becomes more of an issue for me in later films, although there are a lot more issues in later films anyway. But in this one, I didn't mind him not speaking in this one, actually. Because at least such a good actor anyway, Mm-hmm. He can do the eyes and the facial
I'm just going to say there's an awful lot of eye acting in this one.
Yes. So anyway, after the credits, we after our synopsis of horror Dracula, we are shown a funeral. Well, not a funeral, I guess a post funeral maybe. We see a body being carried through the woods by a group of men, and we see a grieving mother, I would assume.
Yeah.
Who is looking for them, and of course she finds them walking through the woods, and basically starts begging them to stop. It's a young girl who, apparently is not died a violent death. She looks quite peaceful,
I mean, she's awfully young.
Yes, very young.
We have no idea what it was she died of, but
no. But of course,
doesn't seem any evidence of foul play. Let's say
no. But we do see some of these ominous people carrying stakes and hammers, mallets, I should say. And they take her to basically a wooden pyre. They're clearly planning on staking and burning this lady.
Yeah.
The priest, he tries to kind of comfort the lady and say, this has to happen. Like we have to do this. But of course she, as soon as she sees the bloody stakes come out towards her newly deceased daughter, she completely loses it. She's like, no, starts screaming. She covers the body. She just won't let them do it. They pull her away, and they're about to stake her when Quatermass turns up, and he's really pissed off.
Quatermass shoots his way in.
He shoots his way in with a gun. It's a great entrance. And let me just say, I think not having Peter Cushing in this movie would suck a million times more if we did not have this.
They did a really good job of producing a really different sort of vampire hunter.
Yeah, I would have loved Andrew Keir and Peter Cushing to have done a sequel together. It would have been amazing.
That would have been so good because they're such different characters.
Yeah, they would have argued over their method. It would have been amazing.
Cushing would have been more gentle, and he's more sort of thoughtful and nurturing, I think.
Yes.
Than Sandor is. Sandor's quite brutal and very, he's very superior, especially when he's in the pub later on.
I mean, that's the thing. He plays it like Quatermass. I can't help but see some Quatermass in his performance where, Quatermass is like the smartest man in the room. He's very opinionated. He's always right. And that's very Sandor as well. Sandor is like, no.
Yeah, he's very much like the Third Doctor, isn't he? He's that
yes.
Which kind of makes sense for the time, but yeah.
Yeah. But of course, Sandor bursts onto the scene and says, this woman just died of natural causes. Like,
yeah, he calls them barbarians.
Yes, yeah.
And I like that the priest says, "This has nothing to do with you," and he says, "When I have come 50 kilometers in this filthy weather," and you think it looks quite nice and sort of, blowy there. It doesn't look at all filthy. What? It's quite a nice day, actually.
Yeah, he's from the Kleinberg Monastery, wherever that is.
Yeah. Just down the road somewhere.
But yeah, he basically says, "Hey, they died of natural causes. She died of natural causes, and she's going to be buried." He's the priest says, "I will not perform the rite," and he says, "I'll bloody do it." You know, I am also a father. I will perform the rite.
You do. Part of you does think like two things. One, surely it's better to be safe than sorry. I'm actually on the side of the priest here.
I kind of feel like Sandor buried her and then maybe dug her up later and just did it anyway.
Maybe. But the other thing is that Sandor comes over, he checks her neck very cursorily, and then checks her teeth, and that's it. And you think, well, that was thorough.
yeah.
Well, she was bitten on her ankle or something, or you know, heaven forbid, on her thigh. Which, you know, to be fair, that's later. That's later, Hammer. That's that. we haven't got to that stage yet.
No, we're not quite there yet. Anyway, she's taken away, and meanwhile, or later that day, inside a matte painting, we are introduced to the Kents.
Yeah.
I think it's Charles. Is it Charles we're introduced to first? Who's just drinking a shitload of wine out of a
drinking the yard, isn't he? Yeah.
Yes, it's like a yard. It looks like wine. I don't know what it is, but it's a yard of something.
It's usually ale, isn't it, for a yard?
It is usually, but it looks a bit wine-like to me. But
I mean, maybe. I mean, a yard of wine wouldn't be good.
No, Jesus. It would be terrible.
I mean, a yard of ale is pretty bad, but
yeah.
Apparently, the trick with that is to twist the glass as you're drinking it.
I don't think there's a fucking trick to it. I think it's gonna fuck you up.
I've never tried it, but I've always slightly wanted to.
Yeah, I'm a bit intimidated, if I'm honest, especially at this age.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 20 years ago.
Maybe 20 years ago I would have done it. Yeah, totally. So we're introduced to Charles, to his brother Alan, and their wives Diana and Helen. This movie, Dracula Prince of Darkness, should be called Nobody Listens to Helen, because she is fucking right the whole movie.
Oh, but she's so fucking annoying.
But she's fucking right.
The
women, basically, if people just listened to the women, this movie would have been over before it started.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that Diane is the one that bloody figures out how to kill Dracula later as well. The women are the ones in this.
Yeah. I mean,
I know she is annoying. You're right. Helen is really annoying. But
that's
she's
the
right.
Thing. I love Barbara Shelley is fucking. I absolutely adore Barbara Shelley.
Yeah.
And she does such a good job.
She really does.
Of being maiden aunt here.
Mm-hmm.
And clutching her pearls and that. And then we get a little bit different later on.
Yes,
When we get to what happens to her later, it's quite the change.
Yeah.
But here she's such a fuss thing, and I love at one point Charles says, "Oh God, if we'd have listened to her, we'd have never have left England."
Yeah.
And you sort of think, well, maybe that would have been a good idea, actually.
Yeah, maybe that was right. So Father Sandor turns up to warm his ass.
But you get the whole fact that the pub is absolutely loving Charles.
He's like center of attention. Yeah.
Yeah, he's already bought 3 rounds, so of course the pub bloody loves him.
Yeah, and Diana is clearly like completely smitten by him and completely in love with him.
Yes.
Fucking
Helen. Helen's like, you've already bought 3 rounds of drinks. It's like you can't do that. It's not right. And I like Charles says to his brother, she says to her husband to like tell him, do something, and Charles is like, oh, my brother already knows I'm incorrigible. And his brother's just like, yeah, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. But Sandor comes in and demands a wine, and then starts warming his ass. Which is pretty funny. He says there's like few pleasures in life. And this is one of the things he,
warm posterior.
Yeah.
And I love that he's like shouting at almost wagging his finger at the locals. And
well, I love it. One point, Charles is like, "Oh, you know, I don't want to distract you from your flock," and he's like, "They're not my flock. They're a bunch of assholes." Like he was like, "I have nothing to do with them."
Yeah. He's about like travel broadening the mind, and he says, "You ain't gonna get your mind broadened here by this lot." And like,
yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ! You somehow can't imagine Peter Cushing's.
No, God, no. His approach would be so different. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be so much more sort of polite and sort of nice about it.
He'd be sat in the corner politely eating his food right now.
Yeah, and he might have a barbed word.
Yeah, but it would be polite.
He certainly wouldn't be calling the locals fucking idiots.
I think the thing is, Andrew Keir's got that voice as well, you know? He's just got that voice, and it's like, wow, it's such a commanding, and it's such a good voice for being angry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, he does look like he's almost always got a permanent frown on his face anyway, so he's...
Yes, yeah. So, they talk about, you know, he says it's nice to meet some polite English people for once, you know. He says you don't get many English, you know, people around here. And of course they say that they're traveling, they're on holiday and whatever. And he suggests, because they talk about I can't remember where it is they're going. Basically, Castle Dracula, wherever the castle is. I forget where it's meant to be. And he says, "Oh no, you should come to the Klein Monastery instead, the Kleinberg Monastery." And
Carlsbad, that's where they want to go.
Yes. He says, "You know, you should come with me to visit the monastery." He says, "You know, I wouldn't go there if I were you," and he does warn them off. Which Charles later says, he's like, "Oh, he just wanted us to join him at the monastery," and it's like, yeah, he didn't say it that way. It wasn't like, "Oh, please come and join me at the monastery.
Come and see the rustic church."
Yeah. But no, he does give them a pretty stern warning. But of course they don't listen. And
he's all like, "Oh, we're experienced climbers. You know, there's nothing to worry about." He's like, "I don't care whether you're bloody climbers or not. Just don't go there, all right?"
Yeah, and he also, I think he is the one that mentions the castle, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't go to the castle." And they say, "Well, like, there's no castle on the map. If there were a castle, it would be on the map, surely." Yeah. But he says, you know, just don't go there, basically. Alan kind of, you know, passes it off as nonsense, and they later hire a carriage who basically agrees to take them, I guess, but then it starts getting dark. So when we catch them, it's basically just before nightfall, and the carriage taxi rider is like, no more, this is as far as I go. You know, Charles tries to, at first he tries to be kind of nice to him, and you know.
Yeah. And Charles says that he mentions that they threw a wheel.
Yes, so which is why they're late, right? Because he's like, well, it would be fine, but you threw the wheel, which is why it's nearly nighttime. It's on you, buddy. And of course, we get the mention of the castle because they see the castle from there, and Alan's like, well, there's a castle there. And the horseman's like, I don't see any castle. You won't even make eye contact with the bricks.
Completely turned away.
Yeah.
You will not look. And Charles has like had enough. He's like, that's because you're not bloody looking, you idiot. And the driver just punches him right in the face.
And then pulls a knife.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, you can sod right off. I'm not taking you any further. And then, of course, I love Charles is like, oh, he's just trying to rob us. And then the man immediately...
The brother says he's just a robber.
Yeah, he's a highway robbery in this. And he just immediately climbs up, cuts the bags off, and chucks all of their suitcases on the floor. And he even says, hey, I'll be back first thing in the morning.
Yeah, he says
if you're here...
Yes. I mean, if you're back, I'll be back first thing in the morning. If you're here, I'll pick you up, basically. But otherwise, fuck no.
He says, I'll take you the rest of the way tomorrow, if you're alive.
Yeah.
And you're in broad daylight, please.
There's a sort of rundown hut, isn't it? It's like a wood hut.
Yeah, it looks almost like maybe a camping outhouse or a hut or some kind, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably some sort of just sort of,
or a gardener's hut, maybe.
Maybe it does seem a very rough shelter. To be fair, they should be used to play. If as they say they're experienced climbers and stuff, they probably should be used to it. But they are English, and we are used to certain things.
And they are, and they do appear pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
I feel like they might not have roughed it before, or not very often.
Yeah, not too badly.
Yeah, I feel like there's roughing it when you're extremely wealthy, and roughing it when you're, when you're not.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they discuss their options. And Helen is like, let's just fucking leave. we should just go. And they're like, well, then we can't go anywhere. And he's like, well, why don't we go to the castle? She's like, no, let's not go to the castle. And Charles is like, well, the only other option is that bloody shack over there. And she's like, yes, the shack. Fine. That's better than the castle. She just knows.
She's totally the Lambert of the group.
She is, but I also feel like she's almost got some kind of foresight, powers of foresight, because she's definitely aware that things are wrong.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? She does seem more attuned.
Yeah. Maybe not foresight, but maybe that she can sense evil or something.
Yeah, I mean, or you could just say she's just massively highly strung and everything. This could just be the way she talks about everything. So you can imagine, like, whenever she's at home, the maid drops a teacup and it's, oh my god, the world's gonna end. She dropped a teacup.
Oh, maybe that's what she's like all the time. But they're about to head to the shack when a horse and carriage pulls up on its own. No rider. The horses just appear. Charles, very bravely, in my opinion, stands in front of the bloody thing.
I mean, very fucking stupidly.
Lucky that it stopped, because Jesus Christ. But they all get in it. And Helen's like, this is guys, this is terrible. But she does go along with it. And of course they all get in. They're a bit perplexed as to where the driver is, but I think it might be Alan, who's just like, hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Literally.
No,
look.
It's Charles, because Charles literally is looking at the face and he says, I've always been told never to look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah.
And I like that when they're driving along and basically he jumps up to the cab and starts trying to drive it. But of course horses have other ideas.
Yeah, well, he tries to steer them one way. The horses turn right around and off they go. There's seemingly nothing Charles can do to stop them. He's trying to steer them. He's trying to do everything he can, and they just won't have any of it. But I do love how polite he is to the horses. After a while, he's like, "Oh, okay, my lovelies, you're in charge."
Yeah. He says, "Was it my all right, my beauty?
Yeah,
you're calling the tune," which is a great line.
Yeah.
I think that's why I love Charles so much, because he's such a sort of...
He's a great character. I do love him, yeah.
Guy, he's this sort of... he just takes everything as it comes, and he seems quite happy about it most of the time.
He does. He more than anyone strikes you as a bit of an adventurer. Like, he's happy to be, in the middle of nowhere, a bit lost. It's good fun, But of course, we know where the horses are leading. They're leading them straight to Castle Dracula. And it's one of the things I really like here, actually, is like we will soon be introduced to the servant. But I do like the idea that even though Dracula's physical body is destroyed, I like to think his spirit is still here, and it's still got command over things. Obviously, he has command over the servant, but also the horses. I like the fact that the horses are without a rider, but they know where to go. They know to pick them up. They know to bring them to the castle. It's almost like Dracula's will is still, in the area, which is why presumably the horseman's like, sod this, I'm not going any further in the dark. But yeah, they arrive at the castle just as kind of night's falling, isn't it? It's kind of dusk.
And I love again. Charles has the great line. They get to the door and Charles says, I think Alan says something about the horses bringing them there.
Yeah.
And Charles says they're not horses, that perhaps they're Saint Bernards in disguise. They completely saved us.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't know, I mean, they have had some forewarning about not going to the castle, and that's the only person that admitted the castle existed. Everyone else has denied its existence altogether, including the maps. which is silly. I would have done it, put it on the map, and been like, "Do not go here." You know, like the military do danger zones on the maps. Like, just do that.
Yeah, but I guess
you'd end up with people going there purposely.
Yeah, you would. You know, look at Area
51.
Area 51. Sorry, Area 51. Like, I don't know whether to believe Area 51 or not. It's obviously a weird military base.
Oh, it's a military base, yeah.
But yeah. But you know, it's obviously very secretive and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've got it on maps and everybody's thinks, you know, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go there. I'm going to try and get into Area 51. If you put it on the map, I think people will try and get there.
I always love those conspiracies. You know, like I fully believe there's alien life out there and all that. But
I don't.
I love it when people go to Area 51 and then they're like, see, they're hiding something. They wouldn't let me in. And I'm like, yes, because normally they let you go into military bases and fly their jets around. Like, normally that's fine, isn't it?
How many other military bases have they tried to get into?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, try it any other ones, especially American ones. Lucky you didn't get shot immediately. But in any case, you know, they've made it, and they're quite happy. They're kind of thrilled when they open the door and they see the candles are lit. It looks very lovely in there. It's clearly well kept as well. Obviously, we will see the servant soon, but it's clear someone's been keeping it in Dracula's wake. You know, man's been dead for what, 10, 15 years or something.
10 years, yeah, 10 years he's been dead. This was it. The original was 1885, and this is 1895.
Yeah. We got guns now. So yeah, they're you know, they turn up and they're like, oh my god, there's 4 places for like food, and you know, there's 4 seats. Like it's like someone was expecting us. Helen has a freak out. Obviously, she's like, this place is terrible. It's evil. And we should leave. But of course, you know, they're not having any of that. And you're right. I do wonder whether Alan's just like, I'm so sick of your shit. You do this every time we go out.
Yeah. Especially later on when they're in the bedroom together, you really feel he obviously
he's long suffering. Yeah.
Sick of her shit.
Yeah.
There's something about the it's not quite the same, but there's something about that them as a couple reminds me of Margot and Jerry from The Good Life.
Yes.
You know,
yes, there is definitely some of that. It's
slightly different because Margot's more sort of overbearing in a different way, but you get this sort of feeling that he just goes along with anything she says because it's just fucking easier that way. Except for in this case, when it would have been in his best interest to actually listen to her. This time he didn't listen. Yeah. Charles wanders off because he goes to try and find the owner of the estate. And he wanders around some of the halls. I think he sees the name Dracula, doesn't he, for the first time? Yeah. But he can't find anyone. Much as he wanders about, and he finds the bedroom eventually, which already has their luggage. Their luggage is somehow gone from the carriage to their room. So of course he heads back down. He calls up Alan, and he's like, "Alan, even got their gym jams on the bed waiting for them." Yeah, it was very nice of Dracula to get the gym jams out. Yeah. Or the servant, I guess. But yeah, even Alan's like, okay, that is kind of weird. Like, yeah. Even I'm going to struggle to understand that one. Meanwhile, the girls are downstairs when they see a figure. And like you said earlier, it's that great fake out of like, oh, it's Dracula. Oh, my God. And no, it's not. Because it's you get the whole sort it's a great reveal. The shadow emerging from the corridor as it sort of comes in. And the shadow looks tall and the hair looks slicked back. So it looks like it could be Dracula. But of course, when it turns up, it's I forget his name. Clove. Yes, that's right.
Of
course, Helen screams.
Of course. Yeah, Philip Latham, another Hammer staple.
Yeah,
and a wonderful performance. I really like him as Clove. Actually, I think he's really good.
He's great.
And he basically says, we're kind of ready. If you would like to dine now, we have food available for you.
What I would like about Clove is that he's not your sort of. He's not a loony or like really monstrous or anything. He's almost sort of normal, just a bit weird, and
he's not like an Igor or something where you're like, okay, you're clearly mental. Like he could pass for a kind of pissed off butler.
Yeah,
you're like, he's just okay.
Charles mentions that he's dirty and a little bit smelly, basically.
Yeah,
which you think, okay, that would make sense. He's probably not terribly well kept.
No,
even though he seems to keep the castle well.
Yes, exactly. And
we kind of get the more traditional loony in a bit.
Oh yes, we very much do, and it's a wonderful performance, that one as well. But yes, so Clove returns to the dining room as they take their seats with soup. They kind of question it, and Clove just says, well, look, my master passed away many years ago, but I was under strict orders, to always be ready for company, and to always be prepared for any guests that come past. So
it's lovely, doesn't it? It's all like,
it does sound. It sounds heartbreaking and lovely, and
Dracula sounds like he was a really lovely,
charitable man.
Thoughtful landowner, basically.
Yeah. It would be a total pain in the ass, though, trying to keep food stocked on the off chance that people might come past.
Yeah, that would be bloody terrible, wouldn't it? Especially if it's just him.
Yeah. I mean, and there's like loads of fruit and stuff on the table that would just be like, oh my god, the amount of fruit I'm going through every week. It's not getting eaten, it's just getting thrown. But anyway, I think it's lovely, and of course I like that Alan's like, this Dracula's fucking fantastic, wasn't he? What a lovely man, he's and in Alan's mind, he's like, see, shut up, Helen, this explains everything.
Yeah.
And
was that your reaction, goddammit?
Yeah. They all agree the soup is bloody lovely. Alan pours some of that wine. I don't know. It might be a genuine type of wine, but Hammer always had the reddest wine. And it's not deep enough red. Like, it's really pale red. It's like a really weird looking wine, but it may be a genuine wine that I'm unaware of. I always associate that color of red wine only with Hammer.
Yeah. It doesn't look great, does it, as wines go? But I don't know. Maybe it's super tasty.
Yeah, maybe it's good. Maybe someone can correct me and tell me that it is actually a wine. I love red wine, but it's always very deep. I've never seen a red wine that's kind of that color.
I get it. Almost looks like a rosé, doesn't it?
It almost, yeah, or blackcurrant juice or something.
But
anyway, they have a toast. I think they might even toast to Dracula.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Clove points out the coat of arms, the Dracula's coat of arms, and I love this. What Charles says? Oh, did he die without issue? And Clove says, oh, what is it? He says,
I think he says something like that, doesn't he? Like he died without.
Yeah, that's right. He says, my
did he die
expired
peacefully or something? Yeah,
he expired with no issue in the accepted sense of the term, is what he says.
Which is like cryptic as fuck.
Yeah, which kind of suggests that maybe there were other vampires out there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, there must be other vampires out there because we've met a vampire hunter.
Well, I mean, other specifically Dracula.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Not other sort of, I guess other breeds of vampire. I guess his specific bloodline. I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. Which again falls nicely into the Kronos theory of like, hey, there's lots of different types of vampire out there.
Yep. Yeah.
That would have been another great crossover, but yeah. So they toast Dracula, and a mysterious wind blows through the hall and blows out a few of the candles. Creepy. I'm sure there's nothing to it. So they all go to bed later that night.
It'll be fine.
It'll be absolutely... Well, where else are they going to go at this point?
Exactly.
They're kind of stuck. So later that night, they kind of head to bed. And Charles and Diane kind of, talk about how...
I love this. Diane's is doing her hair in the mirror, and Charles comes in and puts his hands over her eyes and says, "Guess who?" And she says, Horace Peabody." Mm-hmm. And he laughs. He says, "Yes, that's right." And he walks away. And then all of a sudden,
he's like, "Wait a minute!"
And all of a sudden he goes, "Who the hell's Horace Peabody?" and she says, "Just somebody I knew before you." And he's like, "Before me? You were in pigtails before me." And he's like, young girls can have.
I knew people as a child. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I had friends.
Yeah, he's sort of almost horrified, but he does it in such a jokey way that it's clearly not meant.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Helen's moaning to Alan. But she's right. I mean, like I said, she's really annoying, but she's totally spot on the whole time. She's totally right.
Alan says to her, "Oh, just go to sleep and it'll be fine. And he says you'll feel differently in the morning." And
he's right.
Almost to give credence to what you said, she says there will be no morning for us. Mm-hmm. And you just think, oh, how fucking right she is, because those two are not going to see the morning.
Well, yeah, specifically them, which again, it kind of feels like she might have some kind of sight.
It does slightly suggest that, yeah.
It's kind of cool though, because they never like make a big deal out of it or say explicitly.
No.
But yes, so they head to bed. I think Clove pops in briefly, doesn't he, before they go to bed? He just appears at the door awkwardly.
They open the door and he's stood there with the snuffer. Yeah. And he's stood in such a weird sort of angle with this snuffer going across him, and it just looks really weird and threatening.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Is there anything else before I go to bed?" And he's like, "No." Weird, creepy guy.
It's fine.
And off he goes.
Yeah. So later, sorry.
That's when is this where you first see the entrance to the crypt?
Oh, it might be actually briefly when he's snuffing the candles. Yeah.
Candles, yeah.
Helen wakes up in the middle of the night and is concerned. And
see, again, maybe there is something in it, because she says
she heard something, yeah. But she was asleep, so I don't know how she heard anything.
Because she thinks it was her husband at first, and he says, "I didn't say a word."
No,
he's just like, "Just fuck off and go to sleep, for fuck's sake." And so maybe there is something. I mean, it could just be the ghost of Dracula calling her name, as it were. But maybe she is feeling something. Maybe she genuinely has, some sort of perception.
Maybe. Well, it's enough. Well, whether it's enough to make Alan want to leave his room or not, I'm not sure. Whether he's just having a look out to shut her up, but he does see Clove.
They hear banging. They hear the banging.
Yeah, and he does see Clove with the.
He pokes his head outside. Clove's there,
pulling a chest.
chest down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I love. He's like, this is where you definitely go. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Actually, listen to Helen and not follow him out there.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, Alan's just determined to prove Helen wrong.
Yep.
You know, he's going to go out and he's going to look around and he's going to come back and be like, see, there was nothing.
Yeah.
But of course, he comes across like a big tapestry, doesn't he? Which he pulls to one side and sees stairs going down. And of course, he has to go down them by himself. We see Dracula's clothes. Because obviously he's ready, like Cloves prepared his clothes for the resurrection. Don't want Dracula running around naked all night.
Nicely folded on his chair and everything.
Yeah. It's all ready. And yeah, he's just like completely bemused by the whole thing. I think we do cut back to Helen a few times, who again is having that
pacing the room.
Yeah.
Come back.
She's well aware something's going on. And you get a great shot where Alan, he walks up to these curtains and he looks around and you just see the shadow of Clove with the knife.
Yeah.
And Clove stabs him in the back. Helen immediately knows. She knows something's gone on immediately.
Yep.
Clove drags.
You're right about some of the shots of the corridors and stuff are really good.
They are. Really they're great. Yeah.
They're beautifully done.
Yeah.
And they're just simple, like, you know, just simple panning shots, but they look so good. They're so smooth and lovely.
Well, speaking of good, we are about to get to an amazing looking special effect, in my opinion, which I think took them fucking ages. I think it was 12 different shots or something. We see Clove tying up Alan by his feet, and he winches him above where it's basically like a
it's a sarcophagus, isn't it?
It's kind of a sarcophagus with nothing in it at the moment.
Yeah, it's got no lid because when Alan comes down, there's a black cloth over the top of it, so you can see.
It's quite an ornate cloth, I think.
Yeah, it's
because it almost looks like a table, doesn't it? It's kind of covered like it's almost a table or something.
I just think it's a funerary drape.
Maybe, yeah.
That's over the sarcophagus, and of course when he pulls it off, and you just look, there is a shot looking into it. It's empty
for now. So Alan is strung up by his feet. Clove goes and picks up an urn.
No, it's a little chest.
Yeah, it's like a chest urny kind of thing. And he wanders back, pours in Dracula's ashes into the sarcophagus. I like that there's a little pillow for him as well for when he wakes up.
Yeah,
so he's nice and comfortable. Yeah. Wouldn't want Dracula to not be comfortable.
Absolutely, you don't want to have a uncomfortable head.
No.
And I do feel slightly sorry for
Alan. Yeah.
Who's the actor? He's upside down, bless him.
Yeah, and genuinely upside down. Yeah.
He is proper spinning. He just not. That does not look comfortable.
No, it cannot have been a comfortable shoot.
I'm sure I would have probably puked if the way he was spinning around.
He's very red in the face as well, which would suggest he was probably up there for a little too long. But he slits his throat, and the blood well and truly fucking pours out of his neck.
And it's a really good. I love the. I mean, obviously, the BBFC made them trim it down. Yes. I think it was slightly more graphic than that. But I don't think we're talking, Halloween.
No.
But it. You get that the sweep of the blade, and it absolutely gushes out.
It's great. It's glorious.
And it's so over the top, the amount of gore that comes out of poor Alan.
And I love, you see it mixing with. I love this effect. I think this effect is amazing.
It's bubbling along. And...
I love you see it mixing with the ashes, and then you start seeing the body starting to form slowly, and you get the kind of mist covering. The mist covers each transition really well, I think.
Yeah.
To where there's no real obvious transition until towards the end. Like for a while, it just works really well.
And I think the reason why it's obvious towards the end is because some of the shots were cut out.
It cuts away towards the end as well.
Yeah, it was. I think it was cut down a little, and I don't think the bits that are missing are actually available. I think they're genuinely missing.
Yeah. Yeah, it cuts back to Clove, and then it cuts back to that amazing shot of the hand and the ring coming out.
But I love the way it's so overly dramatic.
Oh,
the way
yeah.
His fingers crawl up along the edge of the crypt.
Yeah.
Great.
So, your boy is back. Helen obviously senses this and goes to leave, only to find Clove at the door, who says, "Ma'am, your husband, please come quickly." So, of course, she dutifully does. She was already concerned about her husband, and now, she was right. Something terrible's happened to him. And so she is kind of escorted down to the crypt, where, I guess the shock works, right? But it is like, if this man was trying to help you, I don't think he would have let you see the sight of your husband strung up like that. But she just comes downstairs and sees him pissing blood out of his throat, tied upside down. She, of course, is in total shock and screams in terror. And we get a very slightly reminiscent shot of Horror of Dracula, with Dracula at the top of the stairs. And we see Helen kind of looking up at him. He's very much... He's got much more red eyes in this film. And
yeah, I think the color in this one makes them look more like he's just got some sort of infection.
Well, I like it in this film because I feel like it's like he's not quite right. Like he's just come back. Right. He's
yeah, I think you say that.
Like I always thought this, like he wasn't at the height of his powers in this film. He's weakened after being killed for 10 years or whatever, 20 years. But of course he uses some kind of hypnosis, as he does on people, and eventually covers Helen with his cape. We then get, I always thought, a slightly awkward shot of him sleeping in the sarcophagus. But the next morning, Diane and Charles are like confused as to where their friends are. Diane's a little worried now. She was like initially worried about things, and then she kind of went along with it, but now she is like, oh, actually, maybe this was a bad idea. Because she was initially kind of with Helen on the like, this is a terrible idea, we should go thing. But I think the food won her round.
Yep, warm castle, lovely food.
Yeah. I guess it goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
But in any case, they head out to look for them. They suppose that maybe Helen got her own way, as you imagine she probably does, and that maybe they went to the outhouse thing. So they kind of head out there to look for her. They obviously don't find her there. But they head out to the outhouse, and they're just not quite sure what is happening. So Charles, he heads back into the castle, presumably to try and find Clove or anyone at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But of course, he finds the place pretty well abandoned. Whilst Diane meets Clove out on the road. Clove pulls up on the horse and carriage, and he kind of starts speaking to her. She's talking about Helen and Alan being missing.
You do think of at that point about Charles when they go back to the cabin and Charles is like, my young lovely wife, you stay here on your own in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
I'm going back to the castle. You think
it definitely feels like it should have been the other way around, or you bring, or both of you go back.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not split up.
So Charles ends up heading down to the tomb of Dracula, where Dracula is still sleeping, and he finds Alan in a box. Alan's arm is
pushed in the box with his arm poking out.
Yeah. Obviously Charles is overcome with grief and disgust, and we see Dracula open his eyes, which is a great shot. As awkward as I said, as awkward as I thought the shot of him asleep was, when he opens his eyes is worth it. That was a great shot.
He does look better with
yeah. Clove, seemingly being a lovely man, gives Diane a lift back to the castle. That was nice of him. I'm sure that wasn't any ulterior motive there.
He plays the your husband.
Yeah.
Like, needs you trick again, doesn't he, basically?
Well, it worked last time. It worked an absolute treat last time. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if I was her, I would have argued, like, he's only been gone, like, 5 seconds. Like, you turned up just after he went in. Like, I'm sure it'd be all right. But, of course, she walks in, and Clove stands in the doorway and then closes the door and bars it from the other side once she's in. She is now trapped in the castle. She's not alone, though, because, of course, Helen appears. A very different Helen.
I love her appearance as well, because you get you get like a pillar and you get the stairs, and she sort of wafts in.
Yes.
And you get that glimpse of her just off to the side first, and then she comes round. And yes, there's a significant difference, let's say. And
she's all sweetness and smiles as well.
Yeah.
If I was Diana, I would have been like, "What have you done with Helen? Helen moans a lot. You're not Helen."
Yeah. What have you done with Helen?
Yeah, you're not the miserable bitch that's my friend.
Yeah, why are you wearing that negligee?
Helen wouldn't wear that.
Who did your hair?
I mean, lucky for Diane, she does a really shit job of hiding her teeth.
Yeah.
It's like very clearly you're a vampire.
Yeah.
Diane tries to run away. Helen goes to assault her, but Dracula just, I don't know, shouts, roars, screams.
He does similar to the first one. He
very similar.
He screams and basically pulls her off it. Oh.
I love you've got that real 60s lighting from the on the top floor as well. It's all red. It's like bathed in red where Dracula is. Great. So he warns Helen off and then comes down to take Diane for himself. Charles intervenes, and then we get the great shot where Helen bars their exit, or one of the exits, and Dracula starts to attack Charles. And they really don't know how to deal with vampires, and I quite like they kind of naturally figure things out.
Yeah.
Charles, of course, first thinks, "Hey, a sword, that'll do."
Yeah, I think fair play to Charles. He's like, sword on the wall, I'm having that.
Yeah, and I imagine he's probably somewhat trained in sword fighting.
He probably had a few fencing lessons at some point.
Yeah, and it's got to be better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, Dracula grabs his hand and takes the sword from him.
Yeah, snaps it.
Snaps it, yeah, which is an awesome shot. And then he starts trying to strangle Charles, and he's struggling when in the meantime Helen is struggling with Diane, but Helen screams out in pain, and we see the cross that Diane was wearing has burnt burnt her wrist. It's burnt Helen's wrist. And of course, seeing this, Charles then makes a cross out of the broken blade.
He's very quick.
He is very quick, but I really like it because it's kind of natural. They've worked out something that might work. They're like, "Oh, good, that works. We'll do that." And it's all going really well until Clove comes in behind them from the door.
Yeah, they're slick. The pair of them are slowly backing towards the door with,
which they're lucky. They're lucky he did that because the door was barred.
Yeah.
And Clove opened it to try his backstab again. He's like, I'm such a good thief. He's like, my backstab is unbeatable. So he's going to try it again. But this time, Charles is having none of it. Punches him in the face. So they escape.
I like it. He basically hits him with the cross guard of the sword, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Wow. That looks proper painful.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this. There's a wonderful shot, like unintentionally funny shot, I think, of Dracula looking really sad that they got away. It's like him and Helen stood there, and he's got this like, I think it's meant to be disgust, but he just looks really sad. He's like, oh,
yeah, it's a weird look. It's a sort of, I think it's a disappointment look.
Yes,
it's but it does kind of look like he's pouting.
Yeah, it does.
It's like, oh, my toys got away.
My toys got away, yeah. But I do think it kind of works because, as we will hear from Father Sandor later, once Dracula's imprinted on a woman, he's obsessed with her. Like he's basically taken Diane as his new bride, and he will not give that up now. So I guess it was kind of conveying that he's like heartbroken. He's like, I must have her. I'm gonna have her.
Poor Helen,
she's already been cast.
He's already, he basically throws her to the floor, doesn't he? Poor woman, and like, oh, it's like that, is it? It's like, already you've been chucked
over. They managed to get some distance from the castle before, speaking of throwing a wheel, they managed to throw.
I like that. They basically they steal the gig, don't they? So
yes.
They get off the little two-wheeler, and it's a really good shot of them coming round the sort of corner as the horse comes away from the cart and they go down. And Helen goes, bam, straight off into the deck.
Yeah, she hits her head. She's probably concussed. She's got a scar on her head. She's knocked unconscious. But luckily, they run into Father Sandor. He's like, I fucking told you.
yeah.
I bloody told you not to come here. I like the idea that Father Sandor was presumably going to find them. Like, why was he there? Yeah. I'm assuming he was there because he was like, shit, they've gone there. I should go find them.
You do get the feeling that he was it was like, I'll just sort of amble over, and if they're there, I'll just
Yeah.
And I think I do like there's a mention in which we forgot about in the pub when about the gun, and Charles says something about it. It's like, is it really dangerous around here? So that so dangerous that everybody needs to be carrying a gun like that? And he's like,
yeah, even a father needs a gun. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he basically says no. He says I just take this out for hunting, and he says there's like I think the brothers think that I just come across when I come home with venison. I think they think that God just provided it for them.
Yeah, because doesn't he say that they think the gun is a bag of books because it kind of folds down, doesn't it?
Yeah, he takes it apart. As he's taking it apart, he says, "Yeah, the brothers think that it's a collection of books."
Yeah. So they head back to the father's. I don't know if it's meant to be the monastery. I'm assuming it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a discussion about vampires and Dracula and all of that. Him and Charles.
He quickly comes to terms with the idea that Clove has resurrected Dracula.
Well, who Father?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. The Father Sandor, I think, was assuming it might happen at some point. I do love that. It's such a bloody cliche in these films that they would see fucking Dracula sucking the blood of someone or something and turning into a bat. And then, like, a scene later, Van Helsing's like, oh, it's Dracula. He's a vampire. He's, a creature of the night. And then they're all like, oh, that's absolutely preposterous and fantastic. Don't be so ridiculous. And you're like, you just literally saw that. Here, Charles is like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, yeah, looked like it. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to, you don't get that awkward bit of like, you've clearly seen vampires. Why are you denying vampires? He's quite accepting of like, okay, this is a problem. We need to deal with it.
Let's get burned by a cross, and he's seen.
He's seen enough.
A dude with red eyes and a fangs.
Yeah, I saw my friend folded into a box. Yeah,
he's pretty chill. He
is. You're right. He's very.
I'm okay with this.
He's seen some shit, and he's like, no, cool, all right.
Yeah.
Father Sandor here, as I said earlier, he says, well, he's imprinted on Diane now. They go to visit Diane, who's still passed out. And he says, well, he's imprinted on her now, so he won't leave her alone. We're going to need to deal with him. It's the only way. We need to deal with Dracula. It's the only way to save your wife, basically, from being taken. And at the monastery, there is clearly a madman.
Ludwig, yeah.
Ludwig.
Sandor mentions that he was found sort of like wandering around 12 years ago.
Yes, suspiciously 12 years ago.
And with sort of he's a remarkable craftsman, but he's a little bit odd, basically.
Yeah, because he's doing the gold folios, isn't he? Yeah.
And I love it when we're introduced to him. He's doing this weird little ritual over the book. It's like yik-tak, or something.
Yeah.
Moving a stone across it, or whatever that is he's using.
Because I love the father's like, he's fucking mental, but he's really good at this. He's really good at his job. So we just lock the door. It's fine.
This is clearly your Renfield, because he
totally
catches a fly, and I like it. He sort of pops it into that. I think it's a glass or an egg cup or something.
I think it's an egg cup or a paint pot or something. Yeah.
Well, maybe. And I like it when he hears Sandor coming. He quickly picks it up and puts it in his mouth.
Yeah.
And Sandor comes and he's like, "You eating flies again?"
Yeah.
And I love the line he says. I've just. Yeah, Sandor says you called to see me. He says, "Oh yes." He says, "I wanted to see you. I've just finished my third folio."
Mm.
And what he says is lovely. He says, "Is it exquisite or merely magnificent?"
Yeah. It's like there's line. No bloody doubt that it's fantastic, but how fantastic?
Which level of fantastic is it, though?
Yeah, but Sandor is genuinely impressed by it. Like you can see in his eyes, he's like, "Oh no, it genuinely is really nice."
Clearly.
Yeah,
and I love Thorley Walters, who plays Ludwig.
I think he's fantastic.
He was in a number of Hammer movies, but he also played Watson 4 times in separate movies.
Wow!
To four different Holmeses, including Lee and Christopher Plummer.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so he had a remarkable career, and actually not a bad Watson either.
No, he's great. He's great in this. Of course, when they leave, the door gets locked, and Charles is like, "That's a bit weird." And the father's like, "Yeah, he's a bit crazy." So we just lock the door. You may have noticed the bars on the window, but we also see Clove turn up with a wagon, bleeding from the head because he's been smacked in the face by the butt of a sword, or the crossguard at least. And he sets up camp outside.
Well, he tries to get in, and
they're having none of it.
Brothers basically says, "We've got orders not to let anybody in, but you are welcome to camp in the grounds."
Yeah. That evening, over some wine, Charles and the father discuss the situation, and then he says, "Well, we're gonna have to deal with Dracula, and Diane, you need to send her away. Like, you need to get her away from here. She'll be safe here though, because vampires cannot enter a building without being invited, which will surely never happen. Because we left Ludwig with a window, and I'm sure he won't be talking to anyone or allowing anyone in. It'll be fine. Meanwhile, Ludwig has opened the window and is talking to Dracula. And I love that they also, like, I don't, like, it's again unintentionally funny to me that Ludwig, I'm guessing, does many jobs. That's my allowance for this happening. But I love that the man that works on books just happens to have a hammer and chisel in his room for the barred windows.
He said he's a workman, so he might be a carpenter and all.
Yeah, it's just funny to me that they're like, that guy's crazy. Lock the door and bar the windows, but give him a hammer and chisel.
Yeah. Give him tools fine. To escape.
Yeah. And of course he starts hammering away, chiseling away at the brick bar, at the brick around the bars. Diane, is regains consciousness, and they start talking about, they're basically comforting her and saying that you'll have to go away. She's obviously still kind of messed up. She's still got like quite a bruise on her head. Meanwhile, Ludwig is now basically got out. He's managed to pry one of the bars away from the concrete, and is now wandering around outside the castle. Of course, he goes to the main gate and unbars the door, and meets presumably Dracula.
I like about the whole sort of Ludwig thing, and I like this idea that, like, sprinkled all over, Germany or Transylvania, wherever this is in this particular movie, he's like collected odds, and he's made them all slightly mental, but they're all like in places dotted around the country that if he turns up, he just gets to go, boy, weird lunatic number 5 in city number 2, open the doors and let me in, sort of thing.
Yeah, he has his worshippers everywhere. Yeah. And I guess the benefit of them being fucking certifiable is that he can almost guarantee that he knows where they are at any given time. It's like the nearest sanitarium, or
sanitarium or a hospital.
Yeah. Although I guess he probably knows where they are anyway. But yeah, I do love that idea. I mean, Clove was presumably one of those. Clove was not in the castle that we're aware of during horror. So presumably he was one of those crazy people that was called in to do something. It's weird because it's taken so long. Like, it's weird that they didn't try doing this. It's weird that Clove didn't go to the nearest village and just drag someone back there or do something. But
I mean, it's never sort of stated exactly what he did to get him back, but maybe it was a case of
maybe there were steps. Maybe there were steps.
Acquiring, maybe he had to acquire things, or maybe the.
I mean, it might be that he needed to get the ashes back. Maybe Van Helsing took the ashes somewhere, away from the castle.
Or you would have thought that Van Helsing would have disposed of the ashes in some way.
Yeah.
And I
you think Clove has just been there with a fucking dustpan and brush for the last 10 years? Yeah. Finally, I've got all of him.
of the castle,
yeah.
And I would just presume, in a more broader thing, that maybe there was some sort of alignment needed, and specific ritual requirements that took 10 years to sort of get to, which is kind of fine. It's just they don't really say anything.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Helen taps at Diane's window and gets her attention. She says, "Oh, it's really cold outside. Please let me in." I would like to say, for the record, if the roles were reversed, Helen would not have opened the window.
Straight.
Helen would have been like, sod right off.
Helen was way more sensible than that.
She would have had none of that.
Absolutely not.
But of course, Helen manages to bite her hand. There's a bit of a struggle. She bites her hand. Diane kind of moves away from the window, and you get that great shot of Dracula then appearing at the window as well. They both disappear into the night as Charles and the father enter, with, of course, the father noticing the bite on her arm, which I don't know if he deals with it or whether he just, I guess for now, slows it down, because he holds the candle, doesn't he? He burns the candle glass against
with the lamp, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like the lamp, the glass of the lamp he uses to kind of surround the bite and burn it.
It's always a bit vague on what they do with vampire bites. Because which one is it? Is it Brides of Dracula where he gets bit? Van Helsing gets bitten and he cauterizes it with a poker, I think, doesn't he?
I think that's Brides. Yeah,
I think that's Brides.
Yeah,
and so there's a sort of there's a suggestion that burning, I guess, a fresh wound, freshly bitten wound, will cauterize it in some way. I mean, this one, luckily, you get specifics on how they're turned.
Yes,
you get the drink from Dracula stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other ones, it's more vague how he turns. Some of them, it's just like a bite. So depends on what you're going by. But this one, definitely, you have the actual drinking of his blood to change.
Yeah. Father Sandor and Charles leave one of the monks with Diane, and they head outside, putting crosses in both coffins that are out there to try and stop them from escaping effectively. I think the plan is we're going to keep them out and force them into the daylight.
Yeah.
Some of the friars, or whoever the fuck they are, they have managed to capture Helen, and this is like, I think, the most iconic shot of the movie. Is Helen being held by the two monks, because I always remember in every, like, all of the Hammer DVDs I've got, all of them, they all feature that shot of her struggling with them holding her on either side. It's quite a famous Hammer shot.
Yeah, and it's real praise to Barbara Shelley, who
you're right, because she plays the dual roles so well, like totally different characters, really, really good.
And she really throws in herself into the cornered animal. She
yes,
totally, she's struggling and hissing and with real conviction. She's great.
Yeah,
absolutely. So much so she threw herself into it, so much so that she swallowed one of her fangs.
Did she really? Wow.
Yeah, I think they didn't have spare, so I think she had to bring it back up.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That sounds like Hammer.
Yep.
Father Sandor says to Charles, trust me, bro, it's not really her anymore. She's just a demon. I'm gonna stake her through the fucking heart. It's just an empty shell full of evil, basically. Yes, yeah. We're only killing the shell. The person is long gone.
Yeah.
And again, to the credit of this film and to Charles, he lets him do it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lesser written film, he would have been like, "Oh my god, you can't do that to Helen. She's my friend. Oh my good," And here he's like, "No, I've seen this stuff. Like, okay."
He's
he grieves. Yeah, he grieves, but he's not like irrationally going to be like, "Oh no, she can be saved." He's like, "No, okay, I've seen all of this now. Fair enough."
Yeah.
And yeah, so she is done for.
Yeah, she's held down on a table, and and staked.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best hammer stakings. It's really bloody good.
It is, yeah.
It's wonderful.
And I love that the father then performs the last rites as well.
Mm-hmm.
Over her, you know.
Yeah, and you get that. You do get what I believe is the last hammer staking and pure the pure death. When you get she's staked and then
she returns to
she returns to a state of grace, so she's serene in that, and I think that's the last time Hammer did that for that particular thing, because later they wanted more sensation, so it gets a bit more. They want the blood and gore, and not so much the she's returned to peace.
Ludwig, he turns up to Diane's room and manages to convince the guy who's meant to be looking after her. He's like, "Look, trust me. I know you think I'm insane, but just let me take this young lady. I need her for stuff. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be all right." And it works. The guy's just like, "Okay, I guess." Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
He's clearly just a bored.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, sod it. It's late. I want to go to bed anyway. Whatever, mate. Go for it."
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Just do what you want.
And of course, he leads her to like a library kind of, I guess like a office room, and immediately she's confronted by Dracula and his red eyes. He's again doing the mesmerizing hypnosis that he does.
Where all the eye acting comes in.
Yeah. And you get that great shot where he slowly approaches her as well. It's just great. I think Christopher Lee can do so much. He's such a good actor, even without lines. It's like he's just so good.
Yeah, that is the genuine thing about him is that.
I mean, it's bloody criminal to not use that voice in a film. But that aside,
that is that's the true horror of this.
Yeah.
Is that you don't get to hear his commanding voice, which is such a shame.
But he does a really good job with just his gestures and his eyes and his facial expressions.
And like you said, I completely buy that he's not really speaking because he's not quite
there yet. It becomes more awkward as the movies go on that he doesn't say a lot, but I always thought in this one it worked fine.
Yeah, well then you get to the last one where he's a bloody Bond. He's practically a Bond villain.
Oh well, yeah. When we get to the 60s and 70s, I mean actual, I don't mean it was made in the 60s. I mean he arrives in the 70s and he's like, I am in the 70s now. Like, oh god.
And the thing is that I know that the initial scripts for a lot of those 70s ones were so much better.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
much better ideas. And they even planned, 72, they planned to have Ralph Bates as the successor. They wanted that Ralph Bates was going to be the new Dracula, but basically the Americans turned around and said, "No, you're contracted with us. If Lee isn't in it, then you don't do it." So they had to hastily rewrite stuff and redo it. And poor old Ralph Bates got
the shaft.
They made it up to him later with Frankenstein and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
He got a bit screwed over on that one.
It doesn't last very long, but I do like that when Diane leaves, she takes her cross with her for protection. Of course, here Dracula immediately commands her to take it off, and she does. In this state of hypnosis. Dracula then opens his shirt and has the cut on his chest with some blood, which she's going to drink. But they are disturbed, and so Dracula angrily kicks the fucking door open, and smashes all the glass in the panes, and
I love the way that thing. I mean, they that must have been made of like cardboard and really flimsy glass.
It looks great.
completely crumbles when he kicks it. It works really well.
It does. I think it looks good. Yeah, the father and Charles break their way into the room, but they're too late. Dracula has escaped with Diane in the horse and cart. Charles is like, first of all, get that bloody Ludwig. Bring him in. Why is Ludwig out of his cage? Put him back in. Charles is, of course, concerned. We later see the father, getting his gun and preparing. And Charles says, God, we got to chase after them right now. And he's like, it's okay. Well, it's not okay. It's fucked. But we have more time than you think because it's almost daylight. So he's not going to be able to make it back to the castle in time. We have a little bit more time. And of course they've put the crosses in the coffins as well. I love the father gives his gun to Charles, and Charles is like, but it's your gun. Like, and the father's like, look, I can't shoot a person. Like, I have my limits as a holy man. I couldn't shoot a person.
He's basically telling him that to deal with Clove.
Yeah, and he's saying I cannot do that. Like, as a holy man, I cannot take a life like that.
He may be a weirdo and a servant of evil, but he's still a human.
It's still a life that he's not willing to take. As a holy man,
human that I can't kill.
And it's made very clear that the gun is going to do sod and all against Dracula.
Yeah.
So yeah, they follow the the tracks effectively, and give chase to Dracula. Very reminiscent of the of Horror of Dracula again, with the chase to the castle.
Yeah.
But in this case, they managed to beat them to it. I guess he knows the terrain a little better. And he knows where they would need to stop. And
they're on horseback, which means they could probably have taken a more
direct route, I guess, a shortcut. Yeah,
than the carriage can.
Clove tries to throw his knife. It was a mistake. Charles shoots him.
It's actually quite cool. I like the way he sort of they confront him. They stop the carriage, and he sort of. First, it slowly just moves, and then he quickly leaps up to throw the knife, and Charles just bam.
Yeah, he rolls and fails initiative, and
yeah, he totally does.
Fucked. Should have stuck with his backstabbing.
Charles rolls the natural 8.
yeah, he's like fucking natural crit 20. Get fucked. But then, of course, the horse and cart starts riding off by itself. Powered by Dracula, or the horses are persuaded by. I do like that
you get seen shots of the coffins in the back of the cart, and they are properly getting thrown around. You just think, wow, Dracula must be really pissed off with
yeah,
because that can't be good. Even if he's almost impervious to damage.
Yeah.
Still probably can be nice getting thrown around like that.
Well, he's about to get thrown around even more because the horse and cart crashes into. So I get that. I think it's next to the castle.
Yeah.
And Dracula's coffin is thrown from the horse and cart onto some ice. There's like a lake or moat. I guess it's probably a moat.
I presume it's the castle moat. I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I do think it's a little weird that only the moat is frozen. Nowhere else looks particularly cold.
It looked like it was frosty. Nowhere near that temperature until this very moment.
Yeah.
But fine.
But fine. It's fine for what we get. So
it's great. I think it's a great ending, but it is a bit suspicious that this ice is. So they pulled this ice right out of their ass. Diane is seen to be okay. She's in the coffin, presumably because the cross was in there. It's kind of kept her from turning or anything further. They didn't really make a big deal out of the crosses, even though they put the crosses.
I presume Clove got rid of them.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
I presume he took them out because otherwise Dracula wouldn't have been able to get into
Yeah, they just never mention them again. So it's like,
I presume.
Yeah, I think that's logical. Yeah. So Charles goes down to finish off Dracula, but it's too late. The night comes, and you get that great sped up shot of Dracula bursting out of the coffin and grabbing Charles.
Helen, she's like,
Diane.
Here, take the gun.
Diane.
Diane's like, here, take the gun, shoot him, and he's like, oh, it'll do no good. Don't do it.
But again, the women are right, man.
Yeah.
She shoots and obviously misses by accident, but of course it cracks the ice, and that gives the father the idea. Father Sandor has previously said, we forgot to mention, running water will knacker a vampire, and so of course he's like, oh my god, the ice, and so he starts shooting around Dracula and kind of makes a little ice island, and eventually the ice cracks enough to where Dracula falls into the water. Notably, they don't even use Christopher Lee's voice here. It's like some stock voice of a person screaming. It doesn't sound anything like Christopher Lee. Anyway.
I think it is.
Is it? It might be him. It doesn't sound like him though.
Doesn't sound great, but it looks fantastic.
It's such a good shot, and I love the idea of it. I think the idea of him, because it would have been so cheap to do the same death again. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is one of the things that you do get with all of the...
They're always creative, yeah.
With the exception of the one where he fucking walks into a hawthorn bush. They actually did come up with some nice ideas to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the cart one's my favourite, I think.
Yeah, the cart one's great.
I love the cart. The cart's great. But this is so cool, and I love the way he slowly slipped, he initially goes down and he's just clawing at the ice, trying to get in. And I love the way you get that the ice sort of closes over, and with his cape sort of caught in it, and it's the cape slowly goes under too.
And then you get the shot of him under the ice as the credits roll.
Yeah,
you get the shot of his face.
So good,
really good.
And I think on the previous one, I mentioned that Lee nearly drowned in this shot, and it wasn't Lee; it was his stunt double.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Eddie Powell was his stunt double, and basically what happened was when the ice sort of sealed, what they didn't realize is that they also cut off all the light so that he couldn't find the oxygen tank. Yeah, he couldn't find the oxygen tank that was like hidden down there. So he had a bit of a problem, and I think it was fine, but I think it was a close thing.
It was a hairy moment, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the end of Dracula. Until next time. But yeah, wonderful film. I really think this is a really good follow-up movie to Dracula.
Even though he doesn't speak, he's got enough presence that you don't mind.
And again, I think in my childhood brain, I just assumed he wasn't quite back yet. He was still working his way back. It works here. I always thought he got more and more awkward when he was saying very little in later films. This one, it was all right. It kind of worked for me.
I mean, this also, they do a really good job, I think, of showing that they can bring him back.
Oh yeah.
We can do this again.
Dracula's never truly dead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. In the moment, he's only trapped in ice. That's we've seen Frankenstein's monster have the same treatment.
Oh yeah, Frankenstein's monster's been trapped in ice many times if you include all the Universal ones as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought it was a great way to end it. I thought it was a really good follow-up. It feels like a really decent follow-up to Horror of Dracula, or Dracula, depending on where you watched it.
And this was put on a double bill with Plague of Zombies.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
It's like that's a nice double bill.
I like Plague of Zombies. It's good.
It was filmed basically using the same. After they finished here, they then did Rasputin the Mad Monk.
Yes.
Very, very much like Plague of Zombies did with
Reptile. Yeah.
So those two were made together, and these two were made together, and they were put on the same bill. So Reptile was put on with Rasputin.
Reptile is the better of the two, I think.
I
prefer Reptile to Plague of Zombies, but they're both good. They're both good.
And I do like Rasputin the Mad Monk.
Oh, I do as well. I mean, yeah.
And again, Charles and what's his name? I know I've got Francis Matthews and Susan Farmer. They play siblings in Rasputin.
Yeah.
So you get that whole sort of thing of them just moving into the next thing, which was just really nice. And I forgot to mention, Francis Matthews was the voice of Captain Scarlet.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
Great. You can just sort of hear it every now and again. And just think, it's Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, I would have. I mean, obviously I wasn't around at the time, but I'd love to have seen those two double bills. That would have been awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, a wonderful film, a wonderful follow-up, and I'm sure there will be more Hammer Dracula in our future.
Yeah, and as I said just before we started, we recorded this on an interesting sort of day
because by pure accident.
Yeah, by pure accident. Yesterday was
as we're recording yesterday. Yeah.
Yesterday was World Dracula Day, which celebrates the release of the book.
Yes.
And today, as I'm recording, I should, as you said, today was Christopher Lee's birthday.
Yeah. So
we by complete accident, happy coincidence. We did well here, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But yes, that's it for us for this week. We will be back next week with our usual review fare. But until then, stay safe, take care, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.